Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm your instructor, John Pomeroy, and this lesson is all about how to draw realistic hair. I want to give you some tips on how to construct basic hair shapes so we don't get too caught up in the individual strands, but we can see an overall shape that you can design and then break down into a fun style. So let's get started. So I'm going to get started with the basic head shape. We'll do kind of our standard block rectangular shape. We're going to try a male hairdo. We'll divide the side, we'll divide the front, eye line, just quickly indicating all of the components. We'll divide the lower facial portion plane into the three parts. Let's see, the ear right there, jawline, coming up to the brow, forehead. There's the side of the head, neckline, throat, cranial mass. So here we have our basic male head shape. Get the brows. What we want to do is start with a part line right about there. And then find the sideburns right about there. They could be pointed, they could be square. And then bring it forward to the temple. And now we have that shape right there that hugs the side of the cranium. Next, we want to bring the hair from that part over and just overlap the far side of the head. Now that is a basic hairdo. Radiating from the part, the hair travels back. We can get all kinds of interesting patterns going back this way. And then radiating from this side, the hair travels in this direction. And the hair on the side where the temple is travels basically this direction. And then what you want to do is try to, where the top of the head meets the forehead, break the hairline just a little bit to give it some texture, and maybe flip it just to give it a little bit of style. Likewise, have maybe a strand hanging over that part of the forehead. This is a very, very basic hairdo. Now, likewise, we can also go the other way. Let me rough in a head, medial line, eyes right about there, jawline, nose, ear, top of the cranium, neckline. So we've got the sideburn right there. We've got the side of the hairdo. We've got the part. The body of the hair, let's see, I'll get some pattern going this way. We can make the hair a little longer. Actually, we can even sculpt it with a little bit of angularity if you want to get into some design ideas for the male hairdo. This way we combed the lock of the hair going over to the far side. We can bring that, comb it in this direction, over in this way. So it folds over in this direction over the forehead. I'll color it in just a little bit, give it a little bit of tone. So that's a variation of that. So we have it the forward lock of hair flopping over the far side, the lock of hair folding over towards us, towards the viewer. From the other side, if we flip this, draw a block for the head, eyes, forehead, brow, nose, mouth, jawline, ear, neck, cranial mass. If the part were on this side, so this would be the left side part coming down, and this can also angle too, coming down into a squarish sideburn. This can be at an angle. It can be round, or it can be at a slight angle at the temple, bringing the hair, the pattern right down by the ear, maybe even over it a little bit. And then just try to draw the direction that the hair is going. We'll make this a full hairdo on the back to give it some depth. And then from the part here, it would, that forward lock of hair, imagine that shape flowing and overlapping the far side of the forehead over to the temple on the other side. And I can sculpt that. I can give this a little bit of angularity to it too. So it's not just round, but there's a reversal that happens. And maybe even a strand that hangs over the forehead, just to give it a little bit of extra design. So these are very simple hairdos that you can play with. What the important thing is that I broke these sections of the hair up in very simple shapes. So I had this shape right there for the side, squarish sideburns, an angular hairline right there at the temple, and then this large mass of hair that flowed over to the far side. But I was using just real basic shapes, and then I can subdivide that and break up the hair to make it interesting, to give it a unique design. The back of the head, let's draw the rectangle, back of the head, the neckline, shoulders. Here's the back of the cranium. Eye line would be right about there. Ears would be right about there. We'd see the jawline on the other side. That is the spot where the neck meets the head. So if we had the part here on the left side, that hair would radiate away from that part in all different directions, coming across the top of the head on that side and on this side. Then coming back down here, it would flow to the back of the neck. And that can terminate into just a little point, or I'm going to erase it real quick, or it can be kind of feathered out ever so slightly. And just kind of blend it out. And of course, depending on the length of the hair, I mean, it could flow way over the ears and further down if you want That's up to you and your design of the hair. But that would give you some basic ideas on how you can cope with designing it. And also, you can also create angularity with these hair shapes. They don't have to be round. They can have an angle to them, which is kind of fun. Next, I'd like to look at some women's hairdos. Also, I want to urge you to take a look at magazines, pictures of models, different hairdos. Here's one young model with a very short hairdo. Here's a male model with some long hair that's hanging down on the sides of his face. So take a look at some pictures. Go through magazines, explore, because you'll find some interesting hair combinations. Now I'm going to rough out a oval shape frontal view of a woman's head. We're going to do a female hairdo, eyeline, rough placement of the eyes, eyebrows, dividing that lower forward section into thirds, nose, mouth. And then we can do a central part here on this woman's head. And have, let's see, let me place the ears also, just do an indication of the ears. Basically, when we want to take from the part, that mass of hair, and just wrap it around the back of her ear, like that. Same on the other side. So this hair is pulled back, and then we can subdivide that, showing the strands in the direction that they're going. And once again, if you want to break it up, you can have one hair kind of falling down in front of the face. So this mass of hair is hugging the backside of the cranium and just being pulled back in back of the ear. Flowing away from the part. And then in the back, it would cascade down, radiating from a central point as if it were there was a hair barrette or something, or ribbon that was holding the hair back. It would cascade down, radiating from a point in back of the head. Shade that in just to give it some depth. So the hair is radiating from a central point back here, and then flowing over the shoulders. You're creating a pattern of hair that kind of curls up over the shoulder. And there's a very basic women's hairdo. If we were to see that from the side, you rough in a head very quickly, ear right there, eye, brow, forehead, nose, mouth, chin, shoulder and neck. Let's see. There's our roughed out woman's head in profile. So this, we would have maybe a little sprig of a side here that would come down, curling in front of the ear here. We didn't include in here, but it could be right about there. And then from the forehead, we see the part is riding along this top portion of the skull. So the hair would be close to that, coming out a little bit away from the forehead and then pulled all the way back in back of the ears. A hair barrette, hair comb would be catching the hair in back of the head. And like I said before, you can have maybe one hair that kind of falls out in front. And all of this is being pulled back. And then hair coming out from underneath, some cascading in the back, falling down in the back, and then some hair flowing in front. And the more you practice, the better acquainted you can get with patterns that hair can form. You take a body of hair, like a ponytail, and all the hair may go in one direction, or if it's attached at the top, it could spiral ever so slightly and create a really neat little pattern that gives texture and form to the hair. So it's now flowing over the shoulder on both sides. I'll give you some on the far side and right here over the shoulder in the foreground. So that's this hairstyle from the profile. Another style. Very simply, take the same basic head, eye line, eyebrows, nose, mouth, taking that same idea with the hair parted in the center and wrapping around by the ear, pulled very tightly back, hair radiating from the part, over the ear tightly. Maybe once again a strand falling forward. Here's her neckline. Shoulders. And then the hair would cascade over one side. Maybe you'd see a little bit of it over here in back of the neck, cascading and flowing like this. Maybe breaking up just a little bit and creating a pattern of the hair as it falls over. Shade it in. So that's a nice, simple female hairdo. And notice, once again, I was looking for the very basic shape first and then subdividing it with some line to indicate the flow of the hair, the pattern and the flow of the hair. Let me give you kind of some examples of hair patterns like I was doing here with this long body, this ponytail, if the hair is coming out of the back and it's secured by a comb or a ribbon, flowing down, here's the back of the head, here's that shape, the basic shape of the hair, and we will twist it around. And let it spring up at the end. Radiating from where it's attached, you can start to create your patterns of hair and how it's flowing. And this will become very important to you as we progress into our next lesson about cartoon hairstyles, because you can use these same principles for breaking up a shape of the hair for your cartoon design, and how to simplify too. So I've radiated this like so and curved it around like that. So there is one style. If you take that shape, there's the basic shape of that ponytail. And it starts from right here, and I'm just going to indicate it with dotted lines. I'm trying to also create spacing. In other words, I don't want to do one line next to the other in parallel spacing. I will mix it up so that a line of hair will be close to another line, and I'll create a space and then do more lines. So this would give it some nice texture in the design. So don't make all of your lines the same width from each other. Break it up a little bit so at some points they're closer, then they're wide apart, and that will give it form and texture to the design. So I'm flowing in the hair like this, and then I will continue down here in this pattern. So I've got a nice wide space right there between these two dotted lines. And also, I mean, if the hair comes down, it's secured in the back of the head, the hair comes down and hits a hard surface. Whether it's part of the back or the person's own body, or they're leaning against a hard object, then that hair will cascade down, and then you will see an angle that will happen, that it's leaning against a table or something, and that hair will form right there against that object. And the hair, you figure out your patterns flowing down. To create the illusion that the hair now has settled against an object. So what you want to do is, it's the cause and effect. The cause is a hard object that the hair is settling against, and the effect is that the hair is responding by flattening out and cascading over that object. Next, let's try some different hairdos. We get into hairdo design and hair artistry. Let's try a 3/4 woman's head. I'll rough it in here. There's her neck, shoulders. Three-quarter oval shape. Eye line, ear, back of the head. There's the eyes, eyebrow, forehead, brow, cheekbone, nose, a rough indication of the mouth. Let's do something where we have the part still across the top of the head. Find that back side of the head, eyebrow. There's our part in the center. And let's terminate it and create a whole shape that will turn into a series of bangs. So we've got that shape there. Breaking down the hair into shapes first. And then from the sides, we would have a long strand on either side, cascading down from the temple to the cheeks. And we're creating kind of an oval shape that complements her face. And then we can form a larger shape in the back of the head, coming off of the part back here. If the hair were to swell up in the back, and we cut it short. And then we have lines that define that. Now, the hair may cover the ear completely. And the bangs we would go back into and subdivide those. So we start off for the basic shape first. That's very important. And then we can subdivide that. So with the bangs, remember, you would create a shape that hangs over in front of the forehead, and then afterwards go back in there and subdivide it. You know, giving different variations of thickness to the hair so it isn't all the same across. Some will be thick, some will be thin. You allow some of the skin to show through. So that would give you some good ideas on how to draw realistic hair. That was a great lesson. I enjoyed teaching that. We learned a lot about different hairstyles and designs. So for your assignment, I would like for you to go through magazines, go through books, go through pictures, go through videos, and copy different hairstyles using basic shapes first, then breaking them down into smaller, unique little shapes. Sketch lots of different hairdos and challenge yourself. Do things that are difficult. Hair patterns and hairstyles that are difficult to draw, challenge yourself in doing those. Copy wherever you can get them. And even in your home, look in the mirror. Pose yourself in an interesting pose and copy your own hair. And this way you'll get kind of an idea of how you can simplify the hair first and then break it down into more complex shapes. That's your assignment. I enjoyed teaching you this lesson. I look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye.